My Christmas tree is growing new roots. I know I might get into trouble if I talk about this, but you have to know about what's out there and what happened to my family this last Christmas. See, it was the first family Christmas we had in 3 years, and maybe we all should have saw what Uncle Lang was going to bring home. He had just gotten out of prison, doing some hard time during a hard luck attempt at a bank robbery. He actually got out in June, and he was all the talk of the family. That is, whether or not he would be invited to one of the legendary Valentine family Christmas celebrations this year. I think it was the Monroe side of the family's declaration during the Monroe family Thanksgiving celebration that tipped the scales. They threatened to not come to the Valentine family Christmas if Lang was going to be in attendance. My old man, ever the old softy, always looking to annoy his mother-in-law, naturally extended the invitation to his brother. My father's decision was quite controversial, and some gentle prodding from my mother forced my father to slightly revise the invitation. Uncle Lang could attend if he would bring the family Christmas tree. That deal was accepted by all parties, most surprisingly Uncle Lang as well. The Monroes predicted that there was no way Lang would make good on that promise, and if he showed up, they would have something to badger the ex-con about that no one would defend. Lang, on the other hand, seemed all too delighted to bring the tree. In fact, he said he would bring it early to give us more time to decorate it. Or so he said, while simultaneously indicating he would be arriving in a day or two and spend the week here before Christmas, because his living arrangements with his girlfriend fell through. Now, I love my uncle. Out of all the Valentines and Monroes, I feel like he had been the nicest to me around the holidays. While everyone took the opportunity to tee off on me for what I'm doing or not doing with my life, Uncle Lang just wanted to know how I was doing, rather than what I was doing. And if the latter ever came up, he always sounded impressed by it. I guess that's good and all, but I couldn't help but feel that if not for him coming back for this Christmas, I would spend another holiday as the family's de facto black sheep. Anyway, to everyone's surprise, including my own, not only did Lang show up when he said he was going to, he also made good on bringing a full-size Christmas tree, albeit precariously strapped to the top of his rusting car. We carefully took it down, expecting to pull it to shreds because it was not properly wrapped, and only tied down with a rope and bungee cords. As he lifted it off and set it upright, we were shocked. It was not just any Christmas tree. It, despite the method it was transported, was the most stunning live Christmas tree any of us had seen. It was exactly 7 feet tall, full, almost perfectly symmetrical. It smelled of the freshest, piniest, cheeriest sap, and somehow Lang pulled off a masterful cut at the base. It fit perfectly into the motorized spinning Christmas tree stand we had set up in the living room. We put on some of the Special Olympics' very special Christmas albums, and as a family we decorated the tree with lights and ornaments. It was a very heartwarming experience, like the old times, as my little brother, myself, Mom, Dad, and Uncle Lang all pitched in. The day finished with us relaxing in the living room, basking in the multicolored lights of the spinning tree, sipping a drink made of champagne and cranberry juice while listening to Gene Autry Christmas. Mom and Dad got a little tipsy, and they made their way to bed after feasting on the remainder of the pizza we ordered earlier in the day. I, being the degenerate college student, was more than adept at drinking these relatively weak cocktails. Uncle Lang went to make his bed in the guest room a while ago, so it was just me and the tree. Maybe I was a little more drunk than I remembered, because I watched the lights inside the glass star blink off one by one. Since I barely broke 5 feet tall when I approached the tree to investigate, all I could assume was that the fuse on the decoration had blown in an odd way, and that it would be an easy fix in the morning when the taller folks in the house were awake. I turned around to finish the last of the champagne in the bottle, and I noticed Uncle Lang was standing in the middle of the room. He startled me. I jumped a bit. He approached me with a bit of intensity and started to ask me some very interesting questions. So, how's the science thing going? I think I told him the degrees I was working on many times, but they never stuck, so I didn't bother correcting him. They're good, I replied. Hey, are you gonna finish that? He said, relieving me of the bottle of champagne. I thought you said because of your probate. He chugged the rest of the bottle before I could finish the question. Hey, look, what if I told you I saw a place where a meteor landed? Would you want to go check it out? I'm pretty sure no meteors have crashed around here. I'm pretty sure we'd all hear about that. Like it would be in the news, even if it was a small meteor. Yeah, but hey, look, I saw something crash into these woods not far from here, okay? And I want you to come check it out with me. I honestly thought about it, probably because I was getting a little more lit up than anything, but all of this sounded super shady the more I thought about it. It was apparently something he intentionally kept from Mom and Dad this whole time, and it felt like I was sneaking out of the house with an ex-con rather than a member of the family. Maybe that was a little harsh. In retrospect, I wish I had gone. But instead I shook it off and I firmly replied no when he insisted again. I had a hard time not responding in a way that made me sound alarmed. Look, whatever Christmas present surprise you're cooking up for Mom or Dad, I don't want to be a part of it. Sometimes I have a big mouth and I accidentally let things slip. So good night, Uncle Lang. It's good to have you back. I went to sleep, and for some reason, I can tell you why, but you already know, I locked the door to my bedroom. The next morning, I woke up to Mom and Dad groaning from their apparent hangovers, arguing about who was going to take my little brother Philip to his ice skating lesson that morning. Alongside them, flying under the radar for a moment, was the equally exhausted and beat-down-looking Uncle Lang, who took a seat quietly while pounding orange juice and chomping down on the rest of the bacon. Eliza, my mom declared, tossing the paper aside. Clean this up, will you? Earn your keep. I'm going to go take a shower. Carl, you're going to drop off Philip. Dad didn't protest as he rubbed his head and made his way to the medicine cabinet. I didn't say anything either. I got to work cleaning up the kitchen. I grabbed Philip's plate and found the bottom booby-trapped with syrup. Philip, who was 10, mind you, popped in and laughed at me. Ha ha, I got you, before retreating to his room. I felt like tossing the plates into the sink, but that would definitely break them. After I cleaned off my hands and went for the dish towel, Uncle Lang stepped in my way with the newspaper unfolded to a particular page. Look, Lang said, tapping on a small story on the 5th page of the main section. He practically pressed it into my face until I paid attention. It was in fact a story about a large meteor sighting over Milwaukee a couple days ago. Oh, okay, I paused, seeing his concern was very high from last night. I shrugged and said, well, do you want to go there now? I said, partially calling his bluff. As an astronomer and an aspiring astrobiologist, I guess I was interested in either 1, disproving him, or 2, actually investigating a meteorite crash site. I went back there last night, he said with a very straight face. He was nodding at me for an extended period of time with wide eyes. And? I asked impatiently as he kept nodding. It's gone. Well, of course it's gone. Most people who see them think they land, and they're just saying, no. You don't get what I mean. I mean the whole forest is gone. I turned up and looked at him with a bit of concern when Mom started yelling from the living room. Carl, there's something wrong with the Christmas tree stand. Carl! Dad crept out of the bathroom next to the kitchen and shambled into the living room. What's wrong? The tree won't move, Mom declared as she flipped the switch on and off on the stand. Ugh, my dad exclaimed. Stop that! Turn that off, please. Don't burn out the motor. I could hear Dad rustling with the branches. Hey, what's this? I listened intently and looked up toward Uncle Lang. He too was listening intently to them. Eliza! Eliza! My mom called out for me. Eliza, come here, please. I bolted into the living room, curious to see what was going on. Eliza, check this out. What is this? Mom was on all fours with her head well under the Christmas tree. I went down on my hands and knees as well to see whatever she was seeing. In the bright colored lights, I could make out the impossible. It was roots. Fresh roots growing out from the trunk of the tree, clinging to the spinning stand, preventing the motor from turning the tree. I was shocked. There was no way a dead tree would grow roots, much less new ones strong enough to stop a motor, especially not in less than 18 hours. Is this normal, Eliza? My mom asked me while picking away the roots. I wanted to tell her no, but instead I told her it was very rare. She asked me to pull the roots away so she could see the tree spin. I told her I would. When Mom and Dad cleared the room, again, it was just me and Lang. I told you it was gone. The trees were all hauled away and the whole area excavated. I'm talking hundreds of trees, most of them bigger than this one. Swoop. Gone. No snow on top. My hand on a stack of Bibles, Eliza, I swear to you. At that moment, I started putting two and two together. So you got the tree from there? No. Yes. No and yes. I shook my head at him violently. Look, this is unprecedented, alright? It's really weird, and I can't help or figure out what's going on unless you tell me exactly what happened and how you got the tree. Where do you think I found the tree? You took it from the place the meteor crashed? My girlfriend kicked me out. I was basically driving around for hours, and I saw this meteor crash, and then the army showed up. The army. Yes, the army. So I hid my car and watched them. They cut down all the trees in this patch of forest and left nothing around the crash site. They loaded them on big flatbed trucks. Then apparently they had something turn over all the damn earth at the site. It looks like nothing was there but an open field now. So how exactly did you get the tree, though? It fell off the back of one of their trucks. I almost busted out laughing. For the first time, he was probably telling the truth about something falling off the back of the truck. All the hard work was done for me, he finished. So, I said, scratching my head. So do some science shit, Eliza. Like, is the tree radioactive or something? I recoiled at the thought, wondering what the odds were that the entire army response was actually a decontamination effort for a genuinely radioactive meteorite strike. Oof. I don't know. I'd think we'd know by now if it had some sort of gamma contamination. We spent all day around it. My scientific knowledge caught up with me with my momentary panic. Look, a dead tree won't put down roots like this. No way. Okay, I believe you. So, yeah. So, like, what do we do? I guess we experiment. Let's cut them down. So, we grabbed some scissors from my mom's Christmas present wrapping box and went into the tree. To my amazement, the roots were now thicker and longer than they were just minutes earlier. They were thick enough, in total, to cover almost the entire spinning stand, and long enough to reach the floor. I wasn't sure I could cut them with these scissors anymore, but I tried anyway. The roots were sturdy, moist, and not woody except for the exterior. They seemed healthy, as if the tree was still in the ground, growing and fully alive. I had never seen such a thing, and instead of trying to cut through the hardy tendrils strangling the motorized stand, I snapped a few pictures of it and did a search on my smartphone. A quick search confirmed what I already knew. A cut tree can't sprout new roots. Period. I climbed back to my feet from under the tree. Aren't you going to cut them? Uncle Lang asked impatiently. This is a scientific anomaly. There's no way I'm going to cut them. I'm going to post them. In the meantime, do you want to take me to the site? I told you there's nothing left. I still want to see it. What? Do you still not believe me? No. No, the problem is I actually do believe you. I left the dishes dirty and took off with Lang and his rusting out Autosmith Rustler into the gunmetal slush-covered winter day. We drove about 30 minutes to get to the location. He said when he saw the army haul away hundreds of trees and cover up a meteor crash site. He was right. Someone went through a lot of trouble to disappear close to 5 acres of woods that easily appears on a Google Earth street view of the road. They also apparently used snow machines, as the area was now covered in a whiter, fluffier, fresher snow than the rest of the snow around it. Pull over, I told Uncle Lang, just as a Humvee in full camouflage crested a slight rise in the road and passed us. I don't think so. I dropped it, as we anxiously checked all around for other military vehicles. We decided to drive 10 miles out of our way before turning around, and then we plotted another route home that missed the site. We were definitely terrified, and far from exploring the field. We speculated maybe some sort of satellite had crashed there instead, perhaps containing top-secret material or something hazardous. As we drove, we continued the idle discussion about getting rid of the tree in the house, and that idle discussion developed into a full-blown plan to get it out as soon as possible, as paranoia grew between us over the possibility it was somehow contamination in particular, from a nuclear power cell carried on some satellites. We finished discussing our plan to dispose of the tree as we exited his truck and made our way to the door. That's when I noticed the house was blacked out, but our neighbors still had power. I was flustered as I opened the door to find the family in a frenzy. My mom accused my dad of putting too many lights on the tree and shorting out the whole house. I offered to help by doing the only sane things they argued. I told them I would unplug the tree from the wall and then ask my dad to try the breakers again. Then I got it from both of them. Simultaneously, my dad explaining the breakers were all on, and my mom saying the tree was already unplugged. My uncle and I shot worried glances at each other as we made for the living room to investigate the tree firsthand. I dove under the tree and found the roots had become as thick as doorknobs and had encrusted the entire stand and had even driven themselves into the wooden floor as if it were soil. 3 of the roots anchored themselves to the floor, while a 4th drilled into the wall just beneath the outlet. I smelled the scent of ozone falling from somewhere on the tree, and I held my ear to the wood floor to confirm that I was in fact also hearing running water. What the hell is going on with this damn tree? Dad entered the room, rubbing his beard thoughtfully, murmuring with Mom in hot pursuit with a dejected scowl etched on her face. I turned my back and looked up the trunk of the tree and found patches of lightly glowing iridescence. It looked like lichen, but I had never seen or heard of iridescent lichen before. I was in the midst of crawling out to get a sample of the lichen when I brushed up against a branch and I saw an ornament tumble from the mid-level. I instinctively reached out, futilely to try to grab it, but all I did was manage to knock it off the branch all the way to the floor. The standard global glass ornament hit the floor and detonated with the force of a hand grenade, sending wood and grass shrapnel in all directions, including into my hand, my arm, and part of my face. I was rendered nearly deaf with ringing in my ears, and I felt like a human pincushion from all the shards and splinters embedded in me. My dad apparently yanked me out by my feet from under the tree. I could see them shouting at me, but I couldn't hear them. I felt sick as I tried to stand, so I stumbled over to the couch and sat with 24 lightly bleeding wounds. After a few minutes, I got my bearings enough to lift my head and face the tree without the ringing and the vertigo. My mom and dad were both trying to tend to my injuries. Warm blood trickled into my left eye. I saw my dad had bloody pinpricks soaking through his shredded pants. Uncle Lang was in the corner, with his fingers scraping out his ears. I could just barely see where the ornament hit the floor. There were no scorch marks or carbon. There was no smell of smoke or smoke at all. I started to think about what could have been in the ornament to make it explode, and only one real answer came to me. Hydrogen. Pure hydrogen gas. Somehow the ornaments were being filled with explosive hydrogen gas. I didn't know how, but it seemed like this was the only possibility. My ears and brain were finally coming back into focus after the blast. I stared up at the star on top of the tree as it suddenly lit up, but only at the very tip point. Then, top, middle, bottom, the tree turned on all of its lights. A strong static discharge and the scent of burned plastic and metal filled the air. It was like the house was hit by a direct lightning strike, or we experienced an intense power surge. The stereo system cabinet was smoking an acrid burning smell. Even as I got the sense that somehow everything electrical in the house would never turn on again. The tree took on an intense glow. This glow seemed to project an aura around it, from the top star point to the floor. I was mesmerized by it, but I had to test a hypothesis. I picked up a miniature nutcracker figurine from the table and tossed it at the tree. The aura deflected it, and it never even came close to touching a branch. Apparently my act of aggression was the last straw for the tree, which started to flash all of its lights at once except for the tip of the star. At first I didn't catch on. None of us did, and then finally it clicked. There were 5 flashes, a break, then 4 more flashes, a break, 3 more flashes, and, well, the tree launched itself with a cloud of pressurized gas and ignited like a rocket 100 feet up after blasting through the roof. Aside from a few presents and pieces of furniture being tossed aside, we were surprisingly unharmed from the liftoff. An electrical arc flashed in the wall, and running water bubbled up from the floor from the empty space the tree had just left. The only explanation that came to my mind was that the meteor contained some sort of space-faring intelligent lichen that took root in the bark and then converted this Christmas tree and all the house utilities into fuel and a launch pad. I can only imagine what hundreds or thousands of these trees contaminated with the same organism or technology or whatever might be doing now in U.S. custody. The army showed up fewer than 15 minutes later and swore us all to silence. Obviously, in the name of science, I am breaking this and letting you know that you should be aware of anything said to be in the vicinity of a meteor strike, and let it be.